Hello, everyone. We want to thank you for joining us today. Today, we are with Jon Cumberworth, the CEO of Client Chat Live. And I've known Jon for quite some time now. Jon's not only a colleague, but he's a good friend. And he certainly has a wonderful product, and something that we recommend to all of our members is certainly a live chat service. But Jon offers a lot more than just a live chat service. They've been around a great deal of experience in this space. And again, Jon, not only is just a good person, but they have a great product. So I'm going to let Jon tell you a little bit more about himself. Jon, thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And thanks for sharing today.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I know we've done a few of these before. So Travis, you know how I do it. I'll talk as much as I can, but feel free to jump in with questions. And I know you've got a lot of experience on the review side for law firms. So I'd love to hear your feedback and thoughts on what I present as well.
I'm not scared to talk. So
That's right. That's right. Well, thanks for having me, everybody. As Travis mentioned, CEO of Client Chat Live, and we provided a live chat service for 12 years to law firms, solos, all the way up to mass tort firms and larger firms. But we've also rolled out a new service focusing on reviews recently, and just working with law firms over the years. I've had a lot of experience with kind of their pain points and y'all's pain points, and knowing what's important to growing a firm. So I'll just jump right in. So for today's webinar, what I want to cover, the value of online reviews for your firm. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I know reviews are everywhere and we don't need to be told that they're important, but just want to cover a few key points there. And then the ROI from getting new reviews. So really, what's the point in getting them? What can you get from that, either financially or as a business owner or entrepreneur? What great firms are doing now to get reviews consistently. So I've been able to work with some firms and get some best practices from them. And you'll see a lot of kind of similarities to just how they run their business in a similar fashion, how they get reviews, and just being systematic and consistent about them. And then go in a little bit of detail on how and why Google uses reviews for search ranking. And I'll cover a little bit of Google's policies as well, relating to reviews, because they're always trying to switch things up on people, but at the same time make sure that they're providing value and making the reviews actually realistic and not a false kind of advertisement. And then I'll give you guys a few tools to take back some systems, some of which you may already know or be using already, but hopefully you can come away with a few tidbits at the end of this. So just jumping in a couple points here on some infographics. Top left here, 88% of consumers trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. We all use reviews every day when we're shopping on Amazon, looking for any type of service. So I don't need to tell you how important those are when getting new clients. But some of the other kind of facts here, 18% uplift, and I know some of these relate to more consumer-driven businesses or e-commerce, but I think a lot of them can still be carried over into law firms, because a lot of what we do is still B2C as well. So you can see about an 18% uplift from having positive reviews, a positive reputation in sales. And so, that 18% for their business might mean revenue-wise, but that could mean one more client, two more clients per month, just from having those reviews for people.
And Jon, I can tell you from our experience, I think that's an understated number. I mean, we have hard data that shows, on average about 32% increase in overall business when people have a decent number, meaning, I guess, depending on their market and their competition,
right,
number of reviews and a decent star rating, above 4.5. So it's a meaningful area for these folks to focus on. And I hope people are paying attention today, because I think things that you're diving into, like Google's policies and such, often overlooked, and people put a lot of time and effort into generating reviews that aren't necessarily utilized.
Definitely, and I think I've had some lawyers that we work with have even said that they value a single review at about $1,500 to them. And it's a lot to do with case value, and if they could get one more client per month, what would that equal to their firm? And this infographic on the right here kind of leads into that as well. Just having that 1-star difference, I think it says a 5 to 9% increase in revenue. To me, this is just Yelp. To me, it's a lot more important when you look at a Google ranking. If you've got a 4-star versus 5-star, you're probably not even going to show up on the rankings, on the search rankings on page 1. And we all know what page 2 versus page 1 can do to a business or a firm.
Yeah, absolutely. You might as well be out in the middle of the Mojave Desert. So
exactly right. What's the old term? That's where they bury the bodies, is on page 2.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and just again, when we're talking about reviews, there's a million different places to put them and to get them, and I'll get into a little bit of kind of the value of which ones to focus on. And again, these might be case by case or firm by firm, depending on where you're getting your clients. You're not getting them from Amazon, of course, but just wanted to put that on there because we're familiar with where some of these reviews live on a day-to-day basis. And so just some of the kind of the talking points with the value of online reviews, obviously the social proof, trust building with the community, with either local community or your client, your potential client base. And that they're getting that from reading the reviews, from seeing the numbers and having that visual differentiation. And then also from an SEO and a search ranking perspective, there's a high value, and I'll put some percentages to it later, but definitely Google and even some of the other, Yelp, Avo, I assume, I'm not sure exactly how their algorithm works, but they're using reviews as a part of their ranking algorithm. So it's important to get consistent reviews and not just get 10 at a time and not have any for 6 months, and then do another kind of flavor of the month and then get 10 more and then not more, no more for 6 months. So that consistent factor is what those bots look at and Google's crawlers. So the other is a visible differentiation from your competitors, and that's just normally you see that who's got a 4.8 versus a 4.0 and who's got 50 reviews versus 5 reviews.
Yeah, and honestly, if most people aren't aware of it, because it's funny, we covered it at the AEA conference in Indianapolis last week, but just adding, and a lot of people have probably noticed this and wondered how it's implemented, but the review in organic results now, standard organic results, if you add the review schema to your site and you put that in the schema code on the website, which is pretty detailed, we can, if anybody has questions about that, we go over it separately. But it shows your review star rating underneath your organic listing. That if you have that in place, the likelihood that someone will click on your listing result versus someone else's in the organic is like 40-some-odd% higher.
That's awesome.
Even if you're in the middle of the first page.
I do have a visual on that, so I can show you kind of what that means. That's a great point, and something that should be done across the board. It's got some detail to it, but I don't think
I didn't mean to jump ahead. I didn't mean to jump ahead there, John. Sorry.
That's the thunder. We can pretty much wrap it up for the day. I think that's all I have. Well, cool. So the last couple points here are a little bit more of a stretch, but I think as a business owner myself and an entrepreneur, the mission validation and using these reviews to return to purpose. You're not gonna see it on the top line quantifiably, but you're gonna see when you do get reviews from clients and you're doing a great job for them. You can share that with your team. You can see that, read those. I was at a conference recently and a business owner was almost moved to tears because of a review someone left and just validated what they do on a day-to-day basis. And I think with the law firms we work with, helping people on a day-to-day basis, it's important to see that as well. And then last but not least, on the potential hires, I think there's Glassdoor out there as well, but also when people are looking to work for your firm and work at your firm and become a part of your team, they do look at the reviews and see how customers react and where you rank compared to the other firms in your area. So it's not just customers that are looking at these, it's potential employees. So a couple details or infographics here from our folks over at iLawyer. a study they did recently. But when we look at law firms, what's the average review score stars a firm would need to have before you hired them? And so having that, at least that 4 to 5, I think if you're in that 1 to 3, then you've got some work to do for sure. And typically, if you're a 1 to 3, you only have a couple reviews, so you're being pulled down by 1 or 2 bad reviews. But getting more of those 4 and 5 star reviews is critical. And then on the right hand side, it's not just about getting them everywhere. It's still the importance of where people look and how people make their decisions. So you can get reviews out there on different sites and review sites, and like Yelp, Google, Facebook, Avo. But it's interesting. What's interesting to me here is the importance on Google and Yelp, but also the kind of the lack of importance from the people surveyed from an Avo standpoint. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Avo is maybe a little bit more lawyer to lawyer reviews initially, but I think they have the peer reviews and consumer reviews or customer client reviews as well. But I was surprised to see the smaller number there.
Yeah, that's news to me, and that's actually great information, John, because I know a lot of attorneys who focus a significant amount of time and effort on generating reviews on Avo, and this is it's good. Yeah, it's great information.
Yeah. Yeah, not saying don't do it because I think Avo is still important, but I was surprised to see that. So that's pretty much the value. So getting into the ROI from reviews. This is from folks over at Podium. Increasing the amount, if you have great reviews, 4 or 5 stars, that can potentially increase the amount spent by a customer by 31%. Potentially retail, but I think still can translate over into what you do on a daily basis as well. And having those great reviews can also allow you to raise your prices. So I've even heard some of the PI lawyers out there that are typically looking at a third of the settlement and increasing that percentage. And not everybody can do that, but if you stand by your service and have the reputation to do so, you have a potential to possibly get more if you want to. Improving the level of trust, again, that goes back to, I think it was 88% in that first infographic, but 92% of consumers who research your firm will have that improved level of trust by a good reputation. And this last point from a Harvard Business Review, which again goes back to what I was saying about new hires, but if you've got a bad reputation, it can cost your business at least 10% more per new hire. And so it's not just, again, moving on the top line, but you're going to have to overcome some of those obstacles by having a bad reputation or maybe just a lack of a reputation when you look to hire people in its competitive employment market, and that's for sure right now. I did scrub some logos here, but you can see some examples from a Glassdoor standpoint on what different law firms look like when they're posting for a job, and you can see probably who you'd want to work with, or at least who you'd want to interview with, just based on this information here. And so it's what I'm trying to say is you don't need to have reviews in a million different places, but I think there are some very important places to have them, and I think Glassdoor can be not underestimated, but maybe not to the forefront compared to a Google or a Yelp.
Well, I think it's good information, though, John. I know a lot of attorneys who have no idea what Glassdoor is, and in this tight labor market right now, this is a very good recommendation. I hope something that people are listening to, because Glassdoor is a site that almost every one of our potential new hires reference when they are in their second or third interview. So it is very meaningful, and it plays a role as far as the citation to Google as well. It's one of the primary citations. So there's a lot of factors, a lot of benefits to being on Glassdoor and also having a good star rating.
For sure. And there's a lot of folks that don't do a lot of hiring, and this may not be that important, but if you are in a competitive space and looking to hire some people, it's definitely important. All right, so getting into more of the system and kind of best practices, and go into some more detail on some of these individually, but what we've seen over the years when we've worked with different marketing agencies and folks like you, Travis, and then just working directly with law firms, I've asked some people that are 400 or 500 reviews, 5 stars, what are they doing to get reviews? What are they doing to consistently get them? And this really isn't rocket science, but it's more about the discipline and having that process in place, which is easier said than done a lot of times with how busy everybody is on a consistent basis. So I think the first step is defining the review size. Who do you want to get reviews to? Is it Google? Is it Yelp? Is it Avo? Is it Facebook? I would say, we've got some firms that say I don't get anything but Google, some others that sprinkle it a little bit more. You look at Yelp, if you're not a Yelp user, regular Yelp user, and you leave a review, it will likely not be posted on Yelp. So there's a high probability that you could reach out to people and get them to post a Yelp review, and it never shows up to the public because Yelp didn't think that they were qualified enough to be a Yelp reviewer. But Google's kind of the opposite for sure. So I'd say defining the review sites and where you want those reviews first and foremost, and then identifying the responsibilities. So who's doing what? Do you have a paralegal that's doing this? Is it going to be the attorneys? Is it going to be yourself? Who is responsible for sending the outreach? Who's responsible for maybe tracking and seeing when new reviews are posted? Who's responsible for responding to reviews if you see value in that? So I think defining those roles, and this is kind of where what I mentioned earlier, as far as you can take this kind of a system and plug it into a lot of different processes in a business. It's so important to know who's doing what to make sure it's consistent. So it doesn't have to be one person or two people, but make sure people know what they're doing. And then identifying when to ask a client for a review. So a lot of the PI firms we work with and more the contingency-based type firms will do it once they have the settlement check handed to the client. So not just when the case is settled, but once they actually hand it that payment over, and that's a perfect time to ask for the review. It's not going to be months later or when it's still during the case. Even though if the case has a great outlook, wait until after the case is done. But it depends on how you kind of wrap up cases and when you wrap up cases. But make sure you define and know in your system, almost like a closing paperwork with your client to get their feedback. Say, I'm going to be sending you a request for a review, and you can kind of cherry pick as well who you think will leave you a good review. You don't have to put that into every single closing and wrap up, but that's up to you how you want to do that with your firm. And then the last two, so determining your outreach methods. I've got a little visual of an SMS here, but I think a lot of firms will put things into a MailChimp, massive e-blast with a link or just an email. I think text messaging with a link is super important because it just, again, we all get a lot of emails. They get discarded or they go to Gmail, sorts them out and filters them. But text messages, they do get opened, and so just make it easy on people to leave a review, put it in their phone. So you determine how you want to reach out to them as well. Is that going to be the attorney that's sending that, so it's more personal? It depends on how you want to do that. But I think determining how you want to reach out to them and what technology you want to use as well is important, if you use any technology as well. And for us, with our service, the way we do it, we look at the monitoring and the follow-up. So a lot of people will send one email, and hopefully they get a review, maybe not, and that's kind of the end of it. But if you don't have a system to follow up at least 3 times, I think you're not going to see as great of a conversion rate of people leaving reviews. Even if they said they're going to leave you a review, it's going to take 2 and 3 times to follow up with them. And that same that's the SMS, that's the email, potentially a phone call if you prefer that. But I think the follow-up and consistent follow-up is absolutely critical. So, Travis, do you have anything to add on this at all?
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry, I didn't know if you were going to have some. I have a knack for interrupting people
Nope.
at the wrong times, but I think
All good.
identifying when to ask is a big one. A lot of attorneys are consumed with this idea that they have to wait till the case is wrapping up. In fact, we find that it's better to ask for a review when they are initially signing a retainer to work with the new prospect. That's when they're the happiest, and it's a great time to ask for a review. In fact, there's no reason why you can't ask for a review a couple times throughout the process.
Sure.
There's just no reason that you have to wait till the case is settling or wrapping up to ask the client for a review. Just people have that idea in their head, and we strongly encourage people to think about when their clients are the most satisfied, or they're happy, or the highest point in the relationship. So it can be a key factor in getting a good review or getting a review at all.
Yep. One thing I didn't put into this, and it's definitely a case-by-case basis, but incentivizing your team. I know there's a lot of folks that do, paralegals, $50 per review or whatever, maybe a contest. What I've found with that, and what I've noticed with firms that do that, is they do them maybe like once every 6 months. And so you have a really heavy push, and then it just dies off. And so I didn't put anything in here as far as incentivization or incentivizing team members, but for some it can work. And that, to me, it's more about the team doing great for the company and doing good for themselves by getting the reviews, almost like it's part of their normal job responsibilities.
Yeah, and it's kind of
a bonus.
Kind of a company culture thing, right? I mean, it's where you're building that into the culture. But you're right. If you're not, it's one of those things that you have to do consistently, and you have to really be involved in that process. Too many times you see the partner or the firm owner who they just kind of roll stuff out, but they don't really believe in it or buy into the process themselves. But if you make it a part of your culture, John, I think, referenced to one of his clients that a review was worth $1,500. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Incentivizing someone to generate a review as part of validation of their job. A lot of people, I've seen some firms build that into the review process for their employees, to where they use that as a factor for their performance. But then also incentivizing it or individually, or making it a group incentive, to where you do, lunch once a week if they get a certain number of reviews for the firm. So there's different ways to do it to make it a part of the culture, so people believe that it's an important thing for them to do, because it's not a comfortable thing for most people to do. So you really have to really build in some meaning and a process, and then reinforce that process.
For sure. And I mentioned it earlier, once you start getting reviews and you get actual, great reviews from clients, it's not just the stars and they click through, but they're leaving great messages, and you can see how you're affecting people with their case. It's like an inertia. You'll start to see a lot more of them, because it makes you feel great if you're getting good reviews. You'll start to see that what you're doing is making an impact and making a difference. So a little touchy-feely, but I do think it's pretty valuable.
I agree.
And so kind of some talking points on those, and I might have covered these already, but just having that consistent approach month over month. So if you're settling a certain number of cases each month, or like Travis said, you're at the retainer process step, put that in your process. And so it's consistent when you're asking for reviews from clients at the same stages consistently. So it's not just a one-off contest. And it actually starts to become part of your culture and part of your day-to-day. And that's super important from a Google standpoint as well, and from the search engine ranking, that you're not seeing spikes and you're getting them consistently. Making it easy on your clients to leave you a review, reach out via text. So you want to make it easy on them so they don't have to do too much. I know there's a firm that I've heard of, they told me how they get reviews, and criminal defense firm, and you definitely can't do it at your office. That's a no-no from a policy standpoint. From your Wi-Fi, that Google will penalize you, but they will help their clients set up a Google account if they need to, and they'll literally walk them through it, and they'll spend 5 minutes with them on their phones doing it at the time, maybe at their house, but they'll spend the time. They see the value in it. They want to make it easy on their clients.
Well, you just made a good point there. I think it's something that most people don't know. If you're leaving a review on Google and they do not have a Google account, it's not. They need to have that extra step. So that's something that I know that you mentioned. But again, it's making it a part of your process. And then what I found is most people don't do a good job of explaining why the review is important to the firm and also future other consumers, people that may be in a similar situation. Most people just, say, hey, can you leave us a review and tell us your thoughts? It's, go in detail about what that review can do for other people who are looking for an attorney to help them. Obviously every attorney I know has got into this because they want to make a difference and help people. And, the value of that and the stories that people have the ability to tell, but likely will not, go into great detail because you don't either give them the guidance or give them a reason to. So, you spend some time with them and make it a part of your culture, and make it important to you and make it important to your client. And, it's, if you do that, there's a much stronger likelihood that people are going to take that step and leave a very meaningful review. But if you just ask, hey, can you review us on Google? Well, I mean, human nature is they may do it, they may not, but they're not going to spend a whole lot of time investing in that process.
Exactly. They've got busy lives themselves as well. And so you made a good point. Make it clear why it's important to your firm and to your future clients, why it's important to have reviews. And I think you'll see more of a likelihood people will leave a review. One other method one of our firms uses is they mention in their request, they say, we'd love to hear some specific information or specifics about your attorney and how they helped you. And so it's that personal touch that the person does want to leave, so-and-so was a great help. So it makes the review look better, but also gives them more of a feeling of I'm helping that person out, that individual out. It's not just the firm, I'm helping my attorney out. Next up is follow up. I mentioned it before. If you're just doing one email or just doing one outreach, it's just not going to be successful. It might be, but you'd be probably the outlier. So in our experience, it's usually the second or the third request, and a lot more often the third request that gets the review finally posted. The next one is tracking the new reviews. So there's a lot of technology out there. You can do it that way, or you can just do it manually. You just put it on a spreadsheet, but make it a point to review it. If you have a marketing meeting, or if you have, weekly or monthly, or even like a staff meeting, have someone responsible for saying, these are our reviews this month, or this is where we're at, and start to track. We went from 10 to 12 to 15, and make it important. Maybe not just the numbers of getting more, but getting reviews. And so if you start tracking it and measuring it, again, you're going to start to see an impact, and it'll drive your team members, or even yourself to get more. And I mentioned either discipline or technology. So the discipline part is just doing it and being consistent. There is no app out there or button that you're just going to be able to push and it's going to blast to all your clients and start getting you reviews. We'll maybe get there one day, but there's no secret weapon. So it's just the ones that have the 400, the 500, or even the 100 reviews. It's consistency and it's discipline. And so you can use that technology to maintain the discipline and make it to where you're not spending hours and you're doing it a lot easier. But ultimately, it comes down to if you're disciplined enough to let the technology work and to work with the technology, so you're being consistent. And the last one, again, is kind of touchy-feely as well, but focusing on your clients and providing great service. we've had some firms we've worked with that when we've done some outreach, we don't get as much of a response from the contacts as we do from other firms. And it's, I hate to say it, but I think I would like to chalk it up to the ones that are getting the response are the ones that actually did provide the great service. So it's not just a matter of outreach, but you got to do the work. So not rocket science there, but sometimes we lose sight and as businesses and business owners, and we get busy, but ultimately that's got to come first. So that's my little preaching on that one.
Sorry.
So
it's true. It's hard to realize. I don't have really anything to add because it's pretty much speaks for itself. So
yeah, exactly. I'm sure everybody's out there like, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Do good work. Make sure I take note of that. All right. So how does Google use reviews? And this is from 2018, but this is kind of an idea of how they break down the importance from a ranking standpoint. And this is mainly geared towards local search ranking. So about a quarter of it's based on proximity and some different keywords and categories from your business, your Google My Business settings. But down here on the bottom left, you've got your review signal. So it's the quantity of reviews, review velocity. So again, it's how often you're getting them. Are you getting 1 per month or 3 per month, or in chunks? And so review diversity, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I would like to think it's not just a bunch of 5 stars with no comments. And so it's a part of the big picture. It's not the end all be all, but it's something that definitely has to be taken into consideration when you're trying to rank for your local, keyword searches and trying to compete, which is always going to get more and more competitive, but you have to take that into account. Here's a kind of a case study that somebody did put on Search Engine Land, and it's actually someone we work with a marketing agency out of Canada. And this is not law firm related, but again, the case study can definitely translate over. But Google had an algorithm change, or they actually went through and reviewed the reviews for these 4 businesses, these dental offices, and a lot of reviews got removed. So you can see here on the left, we've got 36 for these guys, 249, and after the review kind of, review, they had some taken off because they were either considered fake or they somehow violated Google's policies. And so more than likely this third one here, at a 56% loss and another 56% loss. They were doing some practices to get more reviews that weren't part of policy. And so on the right, you can see after that change, how their rankings changed. And it's a little bit backwards, kind of upside down, but you want to be down here on the lower side. But everybody took a spike up from a ranking standpoint. So they're maybe on page 1, dropped to page 2. And so this was what they tried to prove here is the example of if you the importance of reviews from a ranking standpoint, getting that page 1. And there's no, at least I don't know, Travis, you might know, but there's no equation that's out there that everybody knows that says if you get 10 reviews, that'll get you 1 more spot.
There's so many different factors, and I think you touched on a little bit. We can kind of rehash a little bit, but a lot of it's the consistency of the reviews that are being posted, the quality of the reviews, the reviewer, how many reviews they've left. There's a lot of different factors that go into play here. That way too many to really dive into it in this webinar. But your point is well received, because the whole idea of this webinar and this is to educate the attorneys on the importance of getting the reviews and putting a process in place to get the reviews and using technology to make that process easier. And it is absolutely critical and becoming more valuable as time goes on, because it's content on your GMB profile as well, which is high impact. So, that's why we talk about the quality of the review. It's why Yelp has done so well, because of the user-generated content that they have on their site. And now they're ranking for everything organically. I mean, it's just they're ranking so well. But not to get too deep into it, but there is not a magic number. but there is a, you want to have natural looking reviews. You want to have a reasonable amount of reviews compared to your competitors, but you'll probably see there may be someone in the first spot in a 3-pack that has significantly less reviews than the people below them.
Right.
So it's, there's no formula for it at, at this time that I'm aware of, or anybody's published anywhere anyway.
Right. You touched on having authentic reviews, and I think I saw one the other day, a firm that had 3 new reviews, and I was looking at them, and all of them seemed like they pulled them off of their About Us page, and it wasn't authentic. You can tell it wasn't a case or wasn't a client that was leaving it, and there's always going to be firms that are out there doing that to try to get the edge, but it's one of those that's going to come back and bite them. And this is an example here of they might get a short-term bump, but at some point they'll be in violation, and they'll face those consequences.
Yeah, and if anybody hasn't had their GNB profile removed or flagged by Google, let me tell you from experience, it will make a dramatic impact on your business. So following Google's best practices, adhering to their policies, doing everything that John is telling you to do right here. It's not a recommendation. It has to be done.
Yep. And that, going into this here, I have no idea how Google's policing this other than maybe going at the bigger tech providers that have the reviews apps. But we've all seen these. You get the email or you see it on someone's website and you see this thumbs up, thumbs down. How would you rate us? Would you give us 5 stars? And if someone leaves 3 stars, it takes them to a different screen to fill out a feedback form. If they had 5 stars, it gives them a link to Google. What that's called is review gating. And highlighted here in yellow, this was something that I think it was mid 2018. Google changed their policy so that you cannot not only discourage prohibiting negative reviews, but it's selectively soliciting positive reviews from customers. And so I do still see, I actually pulled the icons on the left here from one of the biggest players, and from an app standpoint, they still offer this technology that you can put on your website, or you can send in an email, and it's 100% in violation of Google's policies. So you can use it internally if you want to have someone fill out a feedback form, but if you have something like this on your site or you're using it now, I'm not sure how it's going to be policed, but it could be one day you'll just see reviews disappear. And so just a heads up on that if you are doing this. The other one I highlighted there is not soliciting from customers in bulk. Still a lot of folks do it. MailChimp, they put it in an email blast. Not sure how it's going to be policed. And I'm not sure, Travis, I assume that is soliciting in bulk, but it might be up for interpretation. You shouldn't be able to just import a huge list and then send it out in mass with a couple clicks.
Yeah, they are policing that. I mean, people are not quite aware of how integrated Google is in how integrated they are into your business. I mean, it's way, that's a whole separate conversation, but
right.
they can track it. It is something that they monitor. A lot of this is done manually, like the profile reviews. So it may not catch up to you now, but it will catch up to you sometime. It always does.
Right.
Yep. They always get people. So, I wouldn't get too comfortable if you're doing this. I think, John is right. It just makes more sense to do this the right way, even if it takes a little bit more time. It just pays off. I mean, there's no shortcuts with Google. There really are not.
Yep. So this is from a systems and tools. So hopefully you guys can take away a couple tools here. And this is what Travis was referring to earlier, the review. I call the review snippet schema. I think it's definitely a schema. I might have the term wrong, but if you search for best car accident lawyer in Denver and you've got everybody that looks the same and these guys that pop out, even if they just says rating 5, this just visually helps them stand out and does give that trust factor immediately. So I can provide a link to a few different places that tell you how to do this. For me, I just asked our web team, I said, can you put this on there? And they did it same day. So I don't think it's super difficult.
No, it's not. It's actually really easy, and if your company hasn't done it for you, they should have by now. It is not. I mean, it to do it correctly. I mean, it can be. It's not. I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's not rocket science either. But there is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. But if you're on a WordPress site, there's some very easy ways to do it. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, reach out to John or reach out to us, and we can help you guys through that process.
Cool. And the other 2 points here, just ensuring that your Google My Business listings are updated. And I just put Google My Business, but there's a lot of technology out there that'll basically get your Yelp listing, your GMB, maybe your Avo, some other things out there that are related to your business, because you can have about 20 different directory profiles, but you want to keep those consistent across the board, and so making sure they're updated from a location standpoint, business hours, all that as well does play a role. And then going back to the system part, determining responsibilities internally for getting reviews. And one thing that I don't think a lot of firms do well enough is replying to reviews, and I see some that have a lot of reviews are regularly doing this. It's really not difficult. You can do it through jumping into Google My Business, and you can reply to reviews immediately through there, or some of the technology that's out there, different apps. Our app doesn't do that. Our service doesn't do that right now, but that's an opportunity for us later. But just replying to reviews and thanking people for leaving good reviews, or even responding to negative reviews. It's important to respond to those as well.
Yeah, and that's when John had the pie graph up there of the ranking factors. It's the I guess the interactions through the GMB profile and postings and or responding to reviews. It plays a pretty significant role in your ranking factors. So, responding to reviews is very important, as like ask a business some questions similar.
Yep, and I know there's going to be even more emphasis put on how a business uses their Google My Business profile to interact with customers, and responsiveness is going to continue to grow as Google tries to drive more people that direction. And then this last one here is getting and saving the link. So you can use it in an email. You can do it if you have it on your phone. You can send a text message if you want to send it from your phone. But you can get this from the Google My Business listing when you log in. And so log in, save the link. You can send it to people. What this link is if you're not doing it already, when they click it, it's as if they clicked the write a review button. It takes them right into your business profile, your firm profile, opens up the little window with the stars, and hopefully if they're logged into Google, it'll bring that up. If not, they have to log in. But this is something that should be readily available. You shouldn't have to dig for it every time. You can even put a link on your website with this kind of hyperlink. So it goes back to making it easy for people to get to that place to leave you a review. All right. So getting into a little bit of the technology on this, and here's just a couple of examples. But I know GreatUs, a lot of folks use GreatUs, BirdEye. I didn't have very much room. I did not put Podium on here. I know they're a big player as well from a do-it-yourself app. But I think there's a lot of stuff out there that allows you to send text messages, send emails, do templates, respond to reviews, manage your reputation. What I found with the firms we work with is there isn't as much of a desire to start doing the whole reputation management. And what I mean by that is responding to reviews. I know it's important, but first step is getting reviews and getting them consistently. And then you can worry about responding to them. It's kind of like when you start a business or start the firm, you got to get the clients first. So don't start putting in how are you going to respond to reviews when you need to get clients first. Maybe a little bit cart before the horse, but just kind of a quick overview here. Full service or DIY, the GreatUs, BirdEye is the do-it-yourself apps where you have to plug in a lot of the contacts, hit the buttons, follow things up. Ours is a full service. We utilize same method or same model of our live chat service with real people doing it. And so we just get the contacts and we do the outreach, the follow-up on your behalf. And then a lot of these will cost per location, or if you've got multiple locations with Google, you have to basically upgrade to different ones there and pay for more. But most of everybody can request via text message. I would say a good practice as well, I didn't put it in the earlier points, but with your client agreements, make sure, if you don't have it already, from a communication standpoint, that they are opting in to text messaging as a form of communication. So I know, I'm sure a lot of y'all have that already in place, but if you don't, making sure that you can text with them and send them things like this via text that they've opted in on as your client. Multiple review site options. Again, you've got Avo, Google, Facebook, Yelp. I think if you send an email to somebody with 7 different buttons, it could be overwhelming, or somebody with some time on their hands could sit there and hit them all and leave reviews. What we found is just try to limit it, but make sure you know where they're going. So Facebook, Yelp, and Google, and then responding to reviews as well from a technology standpoint. So I didn't want to cover too much of the tech. I wanted to get more into just the value and the importance of consistency and having a system in place. But if you do want to learn more about how we do it, you can go to this website here, login.clientchatlive.com, set up a free account, link a Google My Business account, and do it for free. You can start sending requests yourself, or work with us and we can send them on your behalf using our own app. So I believe that's about it from me. Travis, if you have any other
No, I think this is
points?
probably one of the most informative webinars we've done, and honestly, probably one of the most important topics that it's discussed, but I think not in the detail that you've discussed it today. So I appreciate you going into the detail that you did. It's important for attorneys to know why it is important to do, to generate the reviews the way that you recommended, because it pays off in the long run. There are a lot of people out there who will recommend shortcuts, and it may sound good at the time, but it will not benefit you. I mean, short-term benefits are probably, they're going to cost you so much more in the long run. It's crazy. But generating reviews is probably, in my opinion, number one or number 2 on the priority list for all of our clients when it comes to their marketing efforts. It makes such a big difference.
What we found with a lot of the agencies we work with, from a review standpoint, it's like everybody knows they're important, but when it comes down to getting a list of contacts or who's going to leave a review, it's almost like it's just non-existent from a process standpoint, and it's like pulling teeth. If you can get 2 reviews a month, you're probably ahead of the game with a lot of firms, and it's such a small number, but you're not going to get 2 reviews per month by sending 2 requests. So if you
Well, John, what do you think about the idea? I tell a lot of our clients and our AAA members to not just look at clients, but also on via Google, peer reviews are just as valuable. And someone gives you a character review. Most attorneys don't. They don't think about it that way. They think it all has to be clients and who have worked with them. Look, if someone can give you a meaningful character review as you as a person, and they're not misrepresenting the fact that they were a client when they were not, then that's meaningful too. This is probably the single best way for people to understand who you are as a human being, and they read reviews probably 10 times more often than they will ever read your website. So, getting that type of content on your GMB profile, it's just very valuable. And again, it can be friends, family members, colleagues. Again, there's really no limit to who can review you.
That's a really good point. That's something I've actually not thought of. But if you have somebody you regularly refer cases to, maybe you're a bankruptcy attorney and you get some PI cases from time to time, You know, if they're able to leave one another reviews, uh, I think that's a really great idea from just a relationship standpoint as well. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just a really easy way to supplement those down months that again, we all have them, right? Where you struggle to get that second or third review that you're really counting on for that month to hit your goals. And if you don't have goals in place, you should. It should be a part of your company culture. Again, that's a whole separate webinar. But
Right.
again, it's just another little trick to not you don't want anybody to misrepresent your relationship with for them to lie, obviously, just to be blunt, but a character review has a lot of value.
For sure. Yeah, I would say don't start hitting your family up for reviews, right?
Right.
Well, cool. Well, that's all I've got. I do have an offer to wrap things up from me. I try not to be salesy. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk about something that's important to your clients and your community, Travis. So I appreciate that. But if you want to reach out to me, I'd love to have you guys try our app, our service for 1 month for free, and as well no setup fee. So about $250 value there. And again, we'll take the contact list and we'll do the outreach using our app on your behalf.
Yeah, and we work with Jon for several different reasons, but we worked with a lot of chat companies, and Jon is very easy to work with, and it for our clients, it's paid off. And I don't want to go into the salesy parts of it, but there's a reason we partner with specific companies, and there's a reason we don't partner with others. So, again, what they provide is high value. They're good people. They're, you can trust them, and they are fair in pricing. So, a lot of reasons to work with them. But again, reach out to Jon and see what he can do to help you out. If he can't help you out, he'll have a lot of great advice that he can share with you nonetheless.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
If anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat of the Q&A, and we have a few minutes left here, so we're happy to do that. But Jon, if there's anything else you want to we can chit-chat about in the meantime. I don't have any current questions, and we'll wait a few minutes here, see if anybody pops up with a question. But
no, I think I just want to reiterate, I think just the fact that making reviews important within your firm culture is so key, and it's something I didn't do with my own business for a long time, and it was like, yeah, it's an afterthought. We'll get there when we get there, but I've seen the importance of having it, and if you go to our reviews, you'll see more recently, and we're trying to be consistent as well. We want to practice what we preach, so I'm excited to see the benefits of the work we put in for our business and see if it pays off as well.
I have a question, Jon. Does Yelp penalize if you send a link for review since they see it came from your IP address?
I do not know if they can see that the link came from the IP address. Is the question more like if you're doing the review from the office, they can see the IP address, but I'm not sure about the link that they click on.
I think there isn't. Doesn't Yelp? They will not accept reviews from like I know Bird Eye and these others were having a lot of problems with connecting their widgets to. So I know that is a problem. So if that was the nature of the question, but
yeah,
I think
we've had our clients use the link and they've gotten Yelp reviews and they have been posted very recently. So
I'm sorry, so he clarified it. If you send a link to review to customer by email, when the customer clicks on it, Yelp sees it originally came from you. I'm with Jon. Yeah, it's a great question, and that's something that I do not have an answer to that I can get an answer to because I have a rep over at Yelp that I can ask. And if you want to, sometimes Hise penalizes, but Google does not, it seems. So we'll get back to you on that. I don't want to give you a false answer, but we can reach out and we'll send the response to the entire group and get back to you with more detailed information. I don't have their policies in place, so Yelp is somewhat mysterious, but they but they're trying to be a little bit more transparent. But again, it's still important. They can be a pain to play with, but they're very important, and especially the search world.
For sure, for sure. Well, I appreciate the question. We'll definitely dig into that.
Any other questions from the attendees? We have a few more minutes left, but again, when do you guys think you'll have the ability to respond respond to reviews built into your technology? Is that something you guys are currently working on?
It's definitely on the roadmap. I would say it's probably Q1. We're really focusing on making it to where the reviews generation aspect is more important, because I think we're the only service out there. There's a lot of apps out there, but I haven't come across one that says they'll put the team together to do the outreach. So that's been more of our focus, but that's probably Q1. We'll have that capability.
Yeah, that's great. There's other ways to do it in which people need to be engaged in their GMB profile anyway. If they're not, I mean, they need to be, especially since the LSA, local service ads are going to be coming out soon.
Right.
Rolled out, but it doesn't look like we have any more questions, John. So if you have any final, looks like maybe we just did get actually a question. Excellent insights. Thank you so much. Thanks, Nathan. We appreciate the feedback. Again, we appreciate everyone joining us today. I have, again, if you're not a member of the AA and you'd like to become a member, just visit the entrepreneurialassociation.org, and we would love to have you sign up and gain more contact information from us. And we share a lot of educational information with our members, and also you get a lot of great discounts with people like John. But again, it's hey, John, thanks for sharing with us today. This was great. It's one of the better webinars I've done in a long time.
No problem. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. We will see you in a couple weeks. And until then, talk to you.
All right. Take care, y'all.